Tiana Brown was a 15-year-old girl with many troubles in the year 2008. Described as a runaway, a rape victim and a lost cause, when her auntie, Shannon Braithwaite, intervened and invited Tiana to stay with her and her 16-year-old daughter, Tiana's cousin, Shannon Braithwaite, at her Crown Heights home in Brooklyn, New York. Marva was a deeply religious woman who wanted to help Tiana turn her life around by rescuing her from her troubled home life, so that she may become more like her own daughter Shannon. Shannon was highly spoken of by all those who knew her. She was an honour roll student who was said to be always happy by her friends and neighbours. She was a fun girl who loved to dance and go to church. She would often help local children with their homework and would spend much of her time reading and being creative. When Tiana had arrived at the apartment on Sunday the 26th of September, Marva and Shannon sat and spoke with Tiana about the direction in which her life was headed. Marva told her that she could stay as long as she abided by certain house rules, like going to school and not having house guests. Tiana willingly agreed to these rules. For 2 days, all seemed well. However, in this short time, instead of seeing what a wonderful girl Shannon was and inspiring to be more like her, Tiana had instead developed a burning sense of jealousy towards her cousin. Tiana was enraged by how much more attractive Shannon was than her, how many friends Shannon had, and how successful her life was compared to her own. In this dangerous midst of comparing herself to her cousin, Tiana continued to become angry when she realised what a loving mother Shannon had, one who cared for her deeply, who cooked and cleaned for her, that showered her with expensive gifts. All the while, the questions rang in Tiana's mind. Why should Shannon have this life when she didn't? 2 short days after moving in with the Braithwaites, on Tuesday the 28th of September 2008, Marva had a conversation with Tiana, which she now feels was a subliminal clue as to the events that would unfold later that day. Before Marva left the house to run errands, the young ladies had been cooking breakfast in the kitchen. Marva stated that Tiana kept asking her, "Marva, what time are you coming back?" Marva then went on to say, "She asked me that question like 5 times and I asked why. You planning on running away again?" Tiana had replied no, and said even if I try, I have to go through Shannon, knowing that Shannon would try and talk her out of it. Marva left the house. According to the police report, she had arrived back to the apartment at around 4:30 p.m. She tried opening the door and had to struggle with the lock. When she finally jarred the door open, Marva found her 16-year-old daughter laying in a pool of her own blood. Shannon Braithwaite was pronounced dead at the scene. An autopsy later revealed that Shannon had been slashed 32 times with a kitchen knife. There were cuts to her face and a laceration to her neck. Arriving at the crime scene, Detective James Coffey reported that Tiana Brown had fled the scene. In the official police complaint, it was documented that Tiana had grabbed a kitchen knife during an argument with Shannon and began to stab her. 2 days after Tiana had allegedly murdered her cousin, she was tracked down and arrested. With her, she had the Coach brand sneakers that Shannon Braithwaite had received as a birthday present just 21 days prior to her death. She had also taken Shannon's sidekick cell phone, an MP3 player, and some clothes, leaving Marva to believe that she had been jealous of her daughter's material possessions. When faced with a stone-faced Tiana in court, Marva said, "She rewarded me by leaving me childless, reaping out my very being. When you sit behind bars, you can never say you weren't loved. Shannon loved you, and I loved you." Despite her preaching, Marva Braithwaite stated that she wanted the maximum term for her daughter's killer. Tiana was convicted in July of 2011 and found guilty of second-degree murder. She received 15 years to life in prison. Martha urged her to turn her life around behind bars. She concluded by telling Tiana, "There is no anger or bitterness in my heart. I also want you to know that I forgive you for killing my daughter."